Protecting my peace for so long, a little too good, now I'm solo. Watching reruns of the same shows. Almost every party I'm a no-show. Even with green lights I don't go. Never been sure, no I don't know. How does everybody else let go of their egos? Don't go out nearly as much as I should. Barely know the way around my neighborhood. I'm ruminating, I feel no good.
Hey babe, how you doing?
I'm okay. I'm just processing all the feelings around turning 30. I don't know how I feel. Some days I'm excited, some days I'm like, this is scary.
One thing about turning 30 was that I could actually see my growth. Dorcas, who was once a little girl, had now become a woman. But more than anything, I've realized how much I have been anchored by the love that is around me. And I wanted to commemorate this birthday with a birthday photo shoot with the people that I love and I so deeply adore. Because love has been my anchor and will be going forward.
So we are heading off to skating. Let's see if we even get in.
Hello, my name is Dorcas and welcome back to my channel. Today we're just going to talk because I have received a bunch of flowers from my amazing friends and family, my phenomenal husband as well, as gifts for my 30th. And I thought it would be nice if we just have a conversation about the transition and some of the thoughts and the things that I was contemplating and reflecting upon as I enter into this new decade of my life. But life lesson number one, I think for me, love is very abundant. Most people like you, most people love you. Love is not a scarce commodity.
3 things I like about Dorcas is, say, her emotional awareness and intelligence, her love for people. I say love and interest for people. And the last thing is her adventurous, wild self.
Love is not a scarce commodity in the slightest. When you yourself have lived a life where you've understood your own value, you are able to live a life that is integral to who you are. And it makes you more reliable. It makes you an individual who is not out here in need of the affirmation and validations of others, but a recipient and a beneficiary because it is part of the realm that you all automatically operate in. When you yourself are carrying an abundance of love, you find that people feel compelled to follow suit with the energy that you have put out there, because ultimately what we reap is what we sow. And I think I realized just how privileged I am, how privileged I am, how adored I am, how loved I am. And I gravitate towards that energy as opposed to consuming my mind with the potential thoughts of like people disliking me and what if this person doesn't appreciate me, and what if this person doesn't validate me. The quicker you fail, the better. If I was to go back into my 20s, I think one thing that I would have, I'm actually pleased that I did very, very quickly and very early was to allow myself to fail. Taking risks of some sort. You have to take a risk of some sort. And I say that to say that ultimately it has built my bounce back power. Like, I have an ability to bounce back. I have developed the muscle of resilience because I actually took some risks on myself and on my ability. And it's not just, I'm not referring to being entirely just stupid and just making unnecessary mistakes where you've calculated what the consequences are and you're just like, whatever will be will be. That's not what I'm referring to. I'm referring to having a level of faith in yourself to take some risk of some sort, whether that's in your skill set, whether that's in your deciding to start a business, going back to school and developing yourself, whatever it may be for you. You are your greatest investment. You are your greatest investment. And when we become so afraid of failing, we set ourselves up for a life that is so confined to very small boundaries. A very small life, a very little life, a life that is not very impactful, a life that to some extent becomes very selfish. And why do I say that? Because when I take leaps and I take bounds, I'm taking leaps and bounds, one, to test myself, to prove to myself, to develop my own sense of confidence. It's very difficult to believe in oneself when you haven't proven yourself to be competent at things, to try something that is completely outside of your comfort zone and then to be like, I'm gonna give it a try. I'm gonna be consistent with this thing, develop this craft, grow this craft, learn so much about this and become a master of it. So much so that I can help others learn this very thing. True freedom thrives in boundaries. I just want to be free. I just want to leave my parents' house until you have to pay bills. True freedom exists in the confines of your values, a solid plan, and discipline. I think many times we're escaping one season to enter into another, only to find that we are not equipped for the season ahead of us. And if you had been disciplined and resilient in the season in front of you, you may have actually learned that this may not necessarily be the time to take that leap. That this may not necessarily be the time to move up my parents. Actually, it might be better for me to stay so that I can afford the life that I truly want, a life where I'm abundant because I've actually created a reserve for myself. It's like people want freedom without a plan. It doesn't work that way. You have to have a solid plan and you have to get comfortable with discipline. You have to get very, very comfortable with discipline. If discipline is an area of weakness for you, I would suggest that you work the muscle. There's no tomorrow if you don't embrace today. I feel like I spent the whole of my 20s like thinking about the life that I'm creating, the life that I'm creating, the life that I want, the life that I want. And it has its place. Like, I'm very big on planning. I'm very big on strategic planning. It has its place. But let's be real. Tomorrow is depending on today. How am I showing up today? I think people confuse being very futuristic and future orientated with being an individual who is fast thinking, or with being an individual who actually is preparing for the future. And sometimes it's not the same. You're ideating about what could be and the potentiality of a thing without making the necessary steps to ensure that happens. Because future Dorcas is dependent on today Dorcas. How do I embrace the here and now? And am I maximizing my today? Am I optimizing my time today? Am I showing up for the people today? Be your own inspiration. Live your life like you are your own inspiration. Honestly, be the main character. Show up. Show up for yourself. What are you waiting for? Sis, create the budget. Ugh. Coming towards the ending of my 20s, I just was like, I should have so much more money. It doesn't even make sense. Like, I really should have so much money. And I've made sacrifices. I've gone to school twice, so that in and of itself has been challenging. But nonetheless, I was living with my parents until I got married. I should have had way more money, and I think, again, I was doing this thing that in the future, when I do have all the money, when everything aligns, I will become the best saver. When everything aligns, I will really get serious about my allocation of resources. But not knowing that with time comes compounding. The small £50 here, the small £100 here, the small £150 here. By the time you know it, if put into a right savings account, if put into a good stocks and shares ISA account, by the time you know it, money has been built. So get out the spreadsheet and actually look at your statement right now and ask yourself, does the way that I spend my money reflect the life that I want to have today and the life that I want to have in 10 years? Am I spending my money in a way whereby I am building for the future? Or am I just spending my money without regard for my tomorrow? Am I even spending my money on the things that are valuable to me? Like, sometimes I look through my statement and I'm like, I didn't need to buy that coffee. And sometimes you may look at your budget and it's not a matter about stopping the coffee and not going on that holiday. It's about, how can I invest in myself to make more money? There comes a point where there's no amount of saving that's going to rectify the situation. You need to get your money up. Fundamentally, you need to get your money up. So how does one become more valuable? How do I invest in myself? Do I go back to school? Do I learn a skill? Do I learn a trade? What am I going to do? Because you have everything you need to be who God has called you to be. Like, there's nothing that you don't have right now. This is the lie of the enemy. That when you get all of that, and when you get all of this, and when you get all of that, that's when. Actually, you have everything you need. Money follows value. So the question is, are you valuable? What do you have that the marketplace needs that you are not putting out in the marketplace? For me, I took for granted that I was an empathetic listener, and that actually a lot of people around me were always coming to me for advice with something. And I didn't take much notice of it until my husband was like, you should become a counselor. Like, you should really take this seriously. You should go back to school. And now people pay me to facilitate what is a therapeutic relationship, to help them on whatever transition they're going through emotionally, mentally, spiritually, or with what are the mental or emotional challenge that they are facing currently. And I am paid for that. For you, it may be strategy, it may be planning, it may be decorating, it may be flower arranging. But there is something the marketplace is looking for that you possess, but you are not putting it out into the world because you don't think it's special or it's oversaturated. The population is only increasing. The world is expanding. There's many people, many markets, many communities. And until you arise and you actually show up with service to help alleviate somebody's problem or to solve a problem or to provide a solution, you will be in lack. Sometimes you do not need to cut people off. You need to humble yourself and reconcile. We're getting very accustomed to cutting people off. It's very lazy, to be fair. It's very, very lazy. We've become lazy. And the art of communication is truly being lost. So much so that we just do not have the ability to resolve things anymore. And I think it's causing so much isolation in our generation. It's causing so much loneliness in this generation because people can't hold relationship. We can agree to disagree on certain things. Or you just don't have to be a person that will be in the inner circle. You may lose your place. That's fine. That's fine. You can't belong in this space anymore. But do I need to cut you off? Not necessarily. And sometimes I think we run the risk of destroying certain connections that will help us grow, that will help us learn to, that will teach us empathy, that will teach us the ways and the thinkings of other people, that will allow for greater consideration, because not everyone is going to be like us. It's just because we are unwilling to humble ourselves, to reconcile, to have difficult conversations. I've come to learn that a lot of us are so comfortable with suffering. We can easily stop the assumption game and the worst case, best case scenario game if we just ask the question directly. As I said, more people love you than hate you. And if it takes one difficult conversation to sever a relationship, then we have to question what was the relationship founded upon in the first place. You're not depressed, you just need to go for lunch with the girls. There were many days in my 20s where I just felt like, ugh, I'm so low, nothing is working, everything is so hard. And I realized, a night out with the girls, a brunch with the girls, a phone call with the girls would completely shift my mindset, my mood, my feelings. Now, if you are experiencing low mood for more than 2 weeks and you're losing pleasure in things for more than 2 weeks, yes, go and speak to your GP, go and search out for therapy, but you will find that fundamentally, strip it back to, am I eating well? Am I drinking enough water? Am I exercising? And am I getting enough relational energy where I feel seen, understood, loved, experienced, and accepted without judgment from the people that I care about? And by the time you know it, things are not as bad as I had made them in my mind. Because I will have people who will encourage me. I will have people who will share that they are also experiencing these same frustrations at work where a manager doesn't understand them. And there I feel seen, I feel experienced, and I feel like I have advice and counsel on how to move forward.
Welcome to the 30s club. It's fun up here. When you wake up with unnecessary body aches, you don't know where it came from, but you're older and you're wiser. You are, it'll be all good. You know, God will grant you your heart's desires. Everything will be fine. It's fun, it's exciting. Another decade. We'll do this again in 10 years.